first, Ranjana, Kumari, do you want to respond to what you've just seen?
Well, Rajdeep, there cannot be worse than what happened with Ujjain girl, a child who's being brutalized, and she's seeking help from door to door. An insensitive society like ours, nobody comes forward to help. And then I had raised this issue already that this child must have been trafficked. Somebody must have brought her from her village to where she was multiple time raped, and then and left to fend for herself. And so I feel that trafficking is a very serious issue, and we all know about it for years and years. We know Human Rights Commission came up with a report long time back. In fact, there were so many recommendations. We used to meet regularly by central ministry where we used to review what is going on with child trafficking. But the reasons, and after COVID, nobody has paid attention to it, that the girls who have been withdrawn from the school, who are not going to school, who have gone back with their parents to their village, what happened to them, and that's what is happening to them. Because of extreme poverty, these girls have been now brought back by, they are saying parents, but this is the condition of the family, that they have been brought back into the and traffickers are not being really nabbed by the police. Law has not been effectively implemented. Less said is better about this whole issue, because nobody, no government, whether it's in Madhya Pradesh, whether it's Rajasthan, Jharkhand, even Odisha, all these governments, everybody knows that from these interior areas, the children have been brought, the girl children, for the brothels, for these dance parlor. I just recently heard that Odisha has reopened the dance parlors. So I think this is what is the kind of situation the girl children have been pushed into, and no government. I will not really go for any kind of political statement here, because no government so far has really paid any attention to children being sold and exploited, and girl children being brought to the brothels of this country, and also for organ trading. Now it's not only just brothels and sexual exploitation and abuse, but also for all forms of organ trading that these children have been sold for.
We want to make it clear, there's a Congress government in Rajasthan and there's a BJP government in Madhya Pradesh. And these two states in the heart of India are the worst at the moment when it comes to crimes against women. So this isn't about BJP versus Congress. It's about completely the manner in which society, and dare I say at times a failed law enforcement machinery, has not been able to create an environment where women are made to feel safe and secure. Kavita Krishnan, your first reactions to that human trafficking story and the horrific story that we've reported also from Ujjain over the last couple of days.
Yes, Rajdeep. As you said, it's absolutely terrible and yet unsurprising. There has been, and I would like to flag here that child sexual trafficking affects not only girl children, but also boys. It has been documented in the past as well that around tourist centers, there is child trafficking, both of boys and of girls. And this has been documented for a long time. But as your reporter just said, that the issue is about confronting it head on. And I feel that as a society and our political leadership, the tendency is to say, Mera Bharat Mahan. And so we can't confront this. The point is that
who is to confront it? Sorry to intervene. Who is to confront it? You saw what happened in Ujjain. Here is a poor semi-naked girl moving from, seeking help. Nobody wakes up. How long are we just going to blame? It's not just the leadership, it's civil society also.
I said society and the state. I didn't say only the government. I said society and the state. The tendency is to say that our society, our country is above question. So everything is good and there are some bad people somewhere who do something. The fact that the society is complicit in this, as you said, that it really, our society sees women as commodities, as property, which even parents can simply trade in, you see. So if one sees it, if one understands this, if one confronts this as a society, as a state, I think that a difference can be made. Unfortunately, that is precisely something that we shy away from, we tend to look away from, and we tend to take offense when someone says, and I say this as a women's rights activist, that when you actually work in communities, the first reaction, it is extremely hard to work in communities because the minute you start flagging the fact that that community, that society, whichever mohalla it is or village it is, that is where in those homes girls and women are being mistreated, there is immediately a reaction. How dare you accuse our village, our mohalla? And that goes across communities, you see. So I think that why I speak about social as well as political leadership is that I feel they can make a difference. For instance, you spoke about the ashram man who offered help. Why is it that our, for instance, leadership of any social institutions, bodies, all of that, as well as political bodies, if they were to say that we are not saying we must respect our women, rather we should confront that we do not respect our girls, our women, we do not respect them as separate individuals deserving of the same dignity and respect as human beings. And that would mean their autonomy, their decision-making capacity, their right to education, their right to have a job, all of that. It's part of a whole. So I feel that responsibility shouldn't be left to women's rights groups.
There is a legal issue as well, Dr. Flavia Agnes, because the fact is that human trafficking has existed. These stories have, this is one of those worst kept secrets. It's known, it's only been flagged up. This investigation brings it out into the open because you're shocked by the openness and candor where even parents are talking about selling off their children. Is there a legal way in which you can send some kind of a deterrent? Do you believe that the law itself does not offer that deterrent?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a total failure of law and order. It's the way the police have lapsed in their duty. They're supposed to be acting there. It's not the responsibility of women's rights activists. It's not a responsibility of local NGOs. It is a state responsibility. And you can see clearly, if it is so widespread, whether it is Madhya Pradesh or whether it is Rajasthan or whichever state it is, the extent of which the law is flouted, I feel it is a state responsibility totally. It is not a question of somebody vigilant or somebody...
You're saying the state simply does not enforce the law, and as a result of which people feel no sense of fear that if they were to engage in human trafficking, they would not be prosecuted?
There are two things here. One is the way the state functions or state lapses. And second is patriarchy. How the family itself colludes with this and sells off their daughters. And that's what is horrific in this. That you...
But obviously they do it, ma'am, because they have no fear of the police.
Exactly. And there is acute poverty. This goes alongside that when there's so much of poverty, the parents don't think much of selling their daughters. And they sell their daughters and there's no fear of the police. The police look the other way and this thing goes on. And it's horrific that a rape victim has to go door to door asking for help. And such a thing cannot happen or should not be allowed to happen. And I feel that we have so much reform in rape laws, so many civil society organizations working there. And yet this happens, and that is the most disturbing part of this. And when you said Nari Shakti, I agree that, yes, it is a slogan. You see it as a forward, etc., etc. But when this is the ground reality, and you don't address economic issues, you don't address state failures, and then you bring out a law in parliament saying Nari Shakti, that is a mockery of the whole situation. This is what I feel.
Given that, Ranjana, Kumari, we saw the manner in which, in the last few days, celebrations of a women's reservation bill being passed, 33% reservation. It is an important bill, no doubt about it. But the recognition that women's empowerment cannot simply be done through legislation in parliament. It requires multiple organizations at multiple levels to be committed to it. We had, after the Nirbhaya rape, a Nirbhaya fund that was set up. But in many states, even the monies of that fund have not been fully used. So you ask yourself that somewhere down the line, we will show this story today, come tomorrow, it will be forgotten. And once again, until the next heinous such crime happens, we will find that the system doesn't respond. Are we celebrating prematurely the belief that we have arrived in a way with true gender equality?
Well, Rajdeep, there are two issues that you're raising here. One, of course, is getting women more space political arena, and that's been 75 years of the independence, and women have not been allowed to enter that space in the way naturally a democracy should have brought about the situation where women will participate. So I think women reservation bill is a huge step. Let me not undermine that. And I think this is no other government could do it. And if this government has done it, certainly it is a huge space. And I'm sure women's leadership coming forward in a critical number is going to make a lot of things change. Because, you know, can you imagine a parliament which is till date not discussed a report on trafficking situation in the country? You are raising this issue. But, you know, not even once that there has been a proper report presented to the parliamentarians, and no parliamentarian is asking that question. What is going on? Why 12-year? No politician speaks when 12-year-old runs around for some kind of a help and support when she is bleeding on the streets of Indore. Nobody wants to come forward and help. So on the one side, there is a kind of insensitive, decaying values and systems in the society where they blame the victim. If something has happened to the women, it is they who are responsible. And that is why they don't react. They don't come forward to help. On the other side, when the political space gets crowded and controlled, totally under patriarchal political parties, then, women are not able to raise any voice there also. So how do women live in this country? What should we do? So I think women reservation bill is a huge step. Let me not really, and I know my whole life struggle. I cannot in no way,
I'm not minimizing it. I'm not minimizing it. I'm saying there are other real issues also out there that need to be addressed and also need to be prioritized. Is all I was saying. Kavita Krishnan, you want to respond? You want to respond that there is a sense.
Yes,
there's a sense that some of the noise that we make, the slogans that we have, as Flavia Agnes was also putting out, do not reflect the ground reality.
I think it goes further than that. See, the point is that how will change come? Change comes by, by persuading communities to look within, to recognize, for the country to look within and recognize that the problem does lie in our society. And then change can happen. And about the political sloganeering, I think the problem is, if it were aspirational, that's okay. But the point, I think, is, and it is, here I would have to say that your most popular leaders, this is a government that, at the center, of course, the state governments, they are absolutely responsible for the police complicity, which Flavia correctly flagged. But I do also want to talk about the social change aspect and the difference it makes, the harm it does. When you have a home minister who says, look, human rights and all, we have our own civilizational human rights because our families are wonderful, our families just take care of women. But they don't, right? The point is they should, but they don't. So in order to say you should, you first have to acknowledge that they don't. At the same time, you have, for instance, the RSS chief saying rapes happen in India, not in Bharat. The point is this whole idea that you have to attach it to morality, you have to attach violence against women, as Ranjana said, to how women are behaving. Are they westernized and Indian, or are they Bharatiya culture? So, the point is, whether it's Bharat or India, we are a deeply patriarchal, and not just patriarchal. We are a cruel society. We are a society which does indulge in deep cruelty. Of course, there's a lot of humanity as well. Point is, how do we encourage humanity and decency and equality and discourage the other?
Let's be fair. There is change which is positive. This is the glass that we are seeing which reflects the darker reality. There are lots of examples in this country also of remarkable change taking place.
No, the point is that change, I'm not saying change doesn't take place. Change takes place when women fight, when women resist. Okay, no doubt. But the point is that's great. But my point is that those who are responsible for change, even the women's reservation bill that you're saying, women's reservation is important, as you said. We've been demanding it for 3 decades. The point is, even now, we do not have it, you see.